Deutsche Bank issued 654 contracts or 3.27 million ounces. They're the ones coughing up the silver. Who are the ones that bought it? JP Morgan, 2.26 million ounces for a customer account. Well, what customer's buying 2.26 million ounces of silver? And the Citigroup, who took 432 contracts or 2.16 million for their house account. Now, JP Morgan and Citi are the two largest derivative holders in the United States. Deutsche Bank is being forced, I doubt willing, to deliver to JP and Citi, who are eager to take it. And I take that as the smartest, most well-informed, best-connected institutions in the silver market are choosing and prioritizing holding physical metal themselves right now rather than trusting future availability. And Deutsche Bank is giving up house silver. Citibank is taking house silver. JP Morgan is facilitating massive customer demand. These are the banks that would trade back and forth with one another, just warrants. The warrant is, yeah, you own it, but the metal doesn't need to move. They'll just go back and forth with warrants where it has the perception of great volume. But these banks would do it in order to hold the price down. They're getting beat now. They're getting beat because of deliverability. That is what is different. And that is what I've been saying with you since 2020. It's different. And now it's accelerating. And, you know, it's accelerating. And I think that's the genius of what these countries have done. Most of us think, well, why wouldn't they just buy it all up? Because just like that, you would blow up the system. You're done. Cut off your nose, spite your face, the whole system blows up. But instead, they slowly have drained the system. And I don't know, when you see the U.S. banks internalizing physical silver exposure rather than leaving it floating in an exchange ecosystem, it massively suggests that they're positioning themselves to control physical silver, either directly or on behalf of very large clients. And I think that is all you need to see with these deliveries continuing to happen. And mind you,
Andy Schectman says the silver market is changing in a big way. For over a year, huge amounts of real silver have been taken from COMEX. JP Morgan has closed its short position and now owns silver. Banks, countries, and big companies are buying real metal. Silver is hard to find, prices are shaky, and this move is just starting. Thanks for watching. Give a thumbs up and subscribe to Find Metals for the latest insights.
Just in the first 3 days of the January delivery month, there's already been 4,250 gold contracts and almost 3,600 silver contracts delivered. Issued and stopped is the right word. That's just shy of 425,000 ounces of gold and 18 million ounces of silver. So, you know, when you talk about it that way, where 65 million ounces of silver were delivered in December and almost 4 million ounces of gold, which again is what we've been seeing every month. And here we're starting off again in 4 days, in just 4 days. We see that kind of volume, 18 million ounces of silver and 425,000 ounces of gold. Who's got that kind of money? Take your calculator and take 424,900 times 4,300 or 18 million times 72. Who's got that money? Where's it going? And the people at that level know the playbook. They know what's coming. They know where things are going. That, to me, is all that I think you even need to say about 2025. In 1980, you had a couple of brothers who noticed the same thing, by the way, that you see here today, more contracts than bars in the warehouse. And so they bought up all the contracts and stood for delivery. 2011, again, you saw a spike up to $50 for a brief second, and then it came crashing down because the fundamentals were very different. The United States was still the destination for safe haven inflows. Gold and silver were not yet recognized as critical, like silver is now classified by the U.S. government. And gold was not being used at that point to usurp treasury issuance or treasury holdings. We hadn't weaponized the treasury market yet. We hadn't done the things that has really coalesced the BRICS and the global South. And when you look at it right now, it's very different. You have sovereign nations that are accumulating this stuff under the guise of national security for all of their respective countries. And I think that's number one. The environment right now, where I would say gold and silver have been recognized by the people that matter to be far more valuable than the dollars and other currencies that are being used to purchase them. It's very different. And when you see deliveries, back then no one stood for delivery. Nobody. I didn't start talking about deliveries until I did with you. You might have been the first one I talked about it with in very early 2020. Maybe even late 2019. It was somewhere in that neighborhood, but probably very, very early 2020, like maybe even January, February, we started to notice it. But that's where it began to change, where no one ever challenged the Western system, where you stand for delivery because you see something bigger. And people say, well, why don't they just buy it all at once? This is the genius of what these countries have done is little, where have I heard that before? Little by little by little by little. They've been doing it strategically, draining from all around the globe, and it's now accelerating. And now it's gotten the eye of this administration who says, if we don't join in, we're in very big trouble. As far as the volatility, deliveries that have come into COMEX at a level that no one has ever seen before. You and I believe, discussed at length, maybe better than anyone in this industry, going back to 2020, the amount of deliveries that we saw everywhere, right? And that is where it begins. It was the central banks, and it was the others, as we called them, the sovereign wealth funds and the family offices, the people that were in the know, the big money that always positions before the crowd. Yet, we didn't know who they were. Were they in the United States or were they outside the country? I guess I always felt they were outside the country. But now what we see here in the United States are some of the biggest deliveries that we have ever seen, ever, for 13 straight months, going on 14 months. We got... in December, delivery notices were for silver were 12,575 contracts. That's an all-time high for the month of December. Almost 63 million ounces of silver were delivered. Now, who the heck is doing that, right? Who is standing for delivery for that kind of volume? And I think that's all we really need to know. And this is part and parcel with what we've seen now for months and months and months on end. And these are the most sophisticated, well-informed traders on the planet that are standing for delivery every single month. And we keep talking about it. But it's just beginning, it seems, in that every month seems to be new records upon records. Back then, in 2011, and I don't remember exactly how many times they did it, but I would bet my life they raised margins considerably. And let's talk about what that means, because they've done it twice here in the last 2 weeks, they being the CME group, COMEX. They raised margins. And the margin requirement prior to 2 weeks ago was like $21,000 would allow you in your margin account, just has to sit there in an account, that would allow you to control 5,000 ounces of silver. Let's put silver at $60 an ounce or whatever, $65 an ounce back then, just a few weeks ago. You're talking an awful lot of silver at 5,000 ounces. You're talking over $300,000 worth of silver controlled with $21,000 in your margin account. You're talking a very high degree of leverage. And when the COMEX comes in as the price is moving higher and raises margins, it's not about the safety of the market. It's a coordinated attack to blow out the leveraged longs. And what happens as the price goes higher, you get all of these traders, not the big boys and girls I'm going to get to in a minute, but a lot of sophisticated traders who think they're smarter than the market and don't have enough money to play in that sandbox. So they go in on leverage, they will go in on margin, and they will purchase silver at a massive degree of leverage using their money within the margin account as collateral, right? So the CME group says, no, we're going to raise margins. And they do it in thin holiday trading, when like right around the day after Christmas when no one's paying attention. And like that, if you don't post that extra margin, they raise it by 30%. That was the second margin increase by 30%. You don't post it, your position's liquidated, just like that. I don't know how much time they give you, but not much at all. It's funny, now that the AI Asian guy you wanted to talk to me about is saying the same thing I said on your show 3 weeks ago. I swear he listens to us. He listens to us all because I know that he and the Economic Ninja kind of got into it back and forth. I know he quoted Bill Holter, and I swear he is saying things that I say too. It's AI that's scouring all of what we're all saying and putting it together. It's pretty impressive. Some of it's not right, but now he's saying the same thing I said on your show 3 weeks ago, which was that the Economic Times came out with an article saying that JP Morgan covered their shorts. They covered a 200 million ounce short position. 3 weeks ago, they said this. I said it on your show, and I said it on Adam Taggart's show, that they covered a 200 million ounce short position, bought 21 million ounces of physical, and are net long. And that the majority of the banks in the U.S. are, in essence, net long. Now, that doesn't mean they don't have short positions. They do. It just means that their long positions are greater than their short positions, meaning that they are, in essence, net long. And so, if that's true, well, that would make the what we just saw here this week even more shocking. What have I been saying? And that's the thing that always bums me out. Like by now, if people don't know that I'm not talking my book, that I try and be as honest as possible. I mean, at this point, lying to hundreds of thousands of people and over time, millions, what good does that do me? I wouldn't say that stuff and destroy my family name and everything I've worked hard to build. I've been saying this on your show now for really since Thanksgiving 2024, I think.
Right.
And when it all went
over a year.
Yeah. I've been saying it doesn't make sense. The big money is draining the COMEX. The central banks are buying, but the public is enamored with AI and crypto. And we've talked about how largest allocation to the equity markets by the public, largest amount of option exposure by the public ever, largest margin debt ever by the public as the big money's draining the exchanges.
Insider selling,
public not buying any metal. Where we've been able to sell junk silver below spot. Now, I want to explain that real quick before I get to the rest. The reason the junk silver that and I told operations, go on line of credit and buy every ounce of junk silver you can buy. I told them that, and we've had a lot, and I think you know that, because it's an anomaly. You don't see it, right? Now, why am I able to buy junk silver below spot? Can't do it anymore. It's starting to change. Because the refineries that accumulate this stuff, and not just junk silver, any form of silver doré or jewelry or candlesticks or junk silver, they have it all in the line of production. And it takes time to refine it into shot, which are like little BBs or ball bearings. They have to pull out all the impurities, make it pure, then turn it into shot, and then they melt that down into bars and rounds. And this chain of production can take weeks, several weeks. Now, if I have 3 million ounces in our warehouse, which we often will, we'll sell 3 million ounces on COMEX, because if the price dropped by $10 or 2 weeks ago, $7, or a week ago, $7, on 3 million ounces, you're down $21 million. How fast are you going to go out of business? So we sell short on COMEX at the exact same amount. One goes up, one goes down. We've explained this before. It allows our inventory to be held market neutral.